Chapter 2248 God's Cloak. Another battlefield. Xiao Lai has always been with the mechanical army, fighting on the front lines. His ability, Metal Frenzy, has the ability to strengthen everything in the world, but the most powerful one is still the strengthening of weapons. After being strengthened by him, the power of the god of death of love can be increased by more than 30%. Therefore, under his blessing, these mechanical behemoths became even more brutal. He was also the first alien to break through the defense line of the Wolwan Empire army and enter the city. As the supreme commander of the Northwest region, he is the only highest-ranking commander to come with the army this time. Beside him were the elite troops from the Northwest region, who followed him into the city with unstoppable force. Behind him, on the platform of the super-large mechanical life form, the Arctic god of war Chen Jiahao, now a powerful man with an ability index of 9,999 points, is transforming into a human cannon, indiscriminately bombing the defeated army in the entire city. The Earth war god Qi Yuquan stood by his side to protect him. Chen Jiahao is a very pure war-type mutant, and his abilities give him almost no advantage in a one-on-one fight. But once on the battlefield, the destructive power he can cause is comparable to that of a white chariot-level mutant. The human cannon is the special ability of Chen Jiahao, who comes from an artillery background. Abandon all defensive capabilities and mobility in exchange for the most extreme bombing power. He was on a high platform, high up, and could overlook a large area of the city in front of him. All the lizard men hiding in the dark and preparing for a sneak attack were locked down one by him and killed instantly. No matter how solid the fortress is or how powerful the mechanical war beast is, it cannot withstand a random shot from Chen Jiahao. The effective attack radius is 10 kilometers. Wherever the artillery fire passes, everything is destroyed. The buildings here are not valuable, so no one would feel bad if they were destroyed. At the same time, collapse all the buildings so that even if there are lizard men hiding underneath, they can be crushed to death. The Northwest Army and the Mechanical Corps together are invincible. But Xiao Lai did not have the slightest smug look on his face. He was always cautious and on guard, because his opponent is a very difficult person to deal with. Zhang Yi had special considerations for handing this opponent over to him. Because that opponent is extremely insidious and despicable, only a mature and experienced person can fight against him. After much deliberation, Zhang Yi finally decided to let Xiao Lai deal with him. When Xiao Lai led his army to attack, that person did not show up. Instead, he watched helplessly as the Huaxiu army rushed into the city and killed a large number of soldiers and lizard men. This kind of cruelty is not something that an ordinary character can do. Commander, the road ahead has been cleared, but we've run into big trouble at an abandoned factory. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Xiao Lai turned his head and saw that it was one of his generals who came hurriedly to report the situation. He flew over with a nimble figure and saluted in front of Xiao Lai with a serious expression. This man is called Guyu. He has followed Xiao Lai for many years and is a capable general. Xiao Lai looked at him and asked, "What happened?" Guyu said, "The enemy is ambushing us there. They launched a surprise attack when our troops were passing by. Their firepower is very strong. For a moment, When he was halfway through his words, Guyu's body suddenly turned into a white afterimage. Without any warning, a powerful energy cannon shot out from his fist and headed straight for Xiao Lai's face. There was no expression of surprise on Xiao Lai's face. He knew who his enemy was. Silver-armored General, Court, ability index 24,000 points, ability, God's Cloak. Its ability is that it can absorb any living creature as its own nourishment and transform into the other creature's appearance. When Guyu appeared near Xiao Lai had already guessed that he had arrived. Because he had issued an order for the entire army to attack, and if any problems arose, they should contact each other through communication equipment, and no one was allowed to approach within 100 meters of him without permission. Court's ability is only to change into the other person's appearance, but he cannot take away the other person's memory. Therefore, he cannot be perfect and is directly seen through by Xiao Lai. Facing Court's sudden attack, Xiao Lai did not make a move, but the super-large mechanical life form under him moved. A huge arm stretched out and blocked Xiao Lai's way. After being enhanced by Xiao Lai's abilities, the combat power of this super-large mechanical life form is extremely terrifying, and its defense is also first class. Quart's attack hit its huge arm, and although it caused a violent explosion, it did not destroy it.
Quart was a little surprised.
"You're really vigilant." His figure was like a ghost, and he actually flew towards Xiao Lai along the body of the super-large mechanical life form. As long as it is on the body of a super-large mechanical life form, the threat it can pose will be minimized. Quart is aware of this. There were a large number of launch holes on the body of the super-large mechanical life form, and various tracking weapons were fired at Quart, but this kind of attack at a tricky angle could not catch up with Quart's extremely fast movements. Instead, he was mercilessly teased by Quart, and eventually it hit him. Haha. Quart laughed triumphantly, and it came close to Xiao Lai in an instant. He raised his fist arrogantly and smashed it towards Xiao Lai's head. A terrifying silver light suddenly appeared on the fist, like a four-pointed star falling from the sky. Quart's simplest and most brutal attack method, Divine Star Flow. Xiao Lai was still standing firmly on the platform of the super-large mechanical life form. His body did not move at all, but the next moment, a large number of chains suddenly rushed out from under his feet. Roar! Roar! The pitch-black chains were no longer chains, but became active under the power of metal frenzy, turning into dozens of black dragons hundreds of meters long, roaring and rushing towards Quart. Facing Quart's divine starstream attack, Xiao Lai had already raised a heavy protective shield to block it in front of him. Boom! The surging energy attack reached in front of him, and in front of the protective shield was a ferocious beast, Yazi, which opened its huge mouth and swallowed all the power. That's right, this heavy shield was also made by Lu Qian using E-metal. After being enhanced by Xiao Lai's abilities, its defense had reached an unimaginable level. Quart's attack had no effect, and didn't even make Xiao Lai move a step, but he himself was surrounded by a group of black dragons. The dragon transformed from the chains was much more flexible, and the Quart people moved quickly on the mechanical arm. His movements were so fast and gorgeous that it seemed as if he was showing off his flexible body. Those movements were simply not something a carbon-based creature could do. Chapter 2249 God's Cloak 2. Although these chains are flexible, it is still very difficult to catch him. But before Quart could be happy, more and more chains appeared behind him. Tens of thousands of chains extended densely from the arms, chest, and head of the super-large mechanical life form. Under the power of the metal frenzy, they transformed into tens of thousands of black dragons. They stared at Quart intently, their eyes looking as if they wanted to tear him into pieces. Quart was suddenly startled, and an ominous premonition suddenly emerged in his mind. This is a trap. He guessed correctly, this was indeed a trap. The super-large mechanical life form controlled by Xiao Lai looks like a powerful war machine on the surface, but in fact, it is a huge trapping cage. The purpose is to attract Quart to come and die. The god's cloak can transform itself into clothing and put it on the prey. It will then burn all the power in its body. When a body is finished being used, it is discarded like ash and a new body is used. Xiao Lai stared at Quart, or strictly speaking, he was staring at the gorgeous, white military uniform that Quart was wearing. That's your true self, isn't it, Quart?
Quart was shocked.
At this moment, he realized that his ability had been exposed long ago. A sky full of black dragons came towards him to strangle him. Xiao Lai said calmly, "Your ability is very good at fighting a protracted battle. Because you consume the vitality of the slag, you don't need to worry about getting injured or running out of energy when fighting. You just need to keep changing the people wearing the clothes to always maintain the highest level of combat effectiveness. But here, no one can be your clothes hanger." From the beginning to the end, the only people around the super-large mechanical life form were Xiao Lai, Qi Yuquan, and Chen Jiahao. Unless Quart can defeat Xiao Lai head-on, it will be impossible for him to attack Qi Yuquan and Chen Jiahao. The most troublesome thing is that this super-large mechanical life form is a cage prepared for him. Clatter. The black dragon is extremely slender, with its tail still in the shape of a chain, and in front is a ferocious dragon waving its sharp claws. They roared, surrounded Court from all directions with no blind spots, and then pounced on him. There was a hint of panic in Court's heart. The leakage of abilities is a very bad thing for the Inhumans. Moreover, the more an alien relies on the strangeness of his abilities to fight, the greater the impact of exposing his abilities will be. Extraordinary people like Zhang Yi and Liang Yu either have powerful and invincible comprehensive abilities, or their abilities are moderate and balanced without obvious loopholes. Even if their abilities are known to others, it will not affect their combat effectiveness too much. But if someone is like Court or Ho Tu, whose abilities have a very high ceiling but whose flaws are obvious once they are exposed, their biggest fear is being thoroughly studied in advance. Chains flew across the sky, and Xiaolai did not give Court any chance to get close, and directly surrounded him with this chain formation. Although the material used for the chain is knotty metal, it is also the most advanced material in Huaxu country today. Coupled with the blessing of Metal Frenzy, its strength is amazing. Court's eyes turned cold. Damn it. The information has been leaked. I need to get out of this damn place first. It's not that easy to kill me, Court. Without any hesitation, he put his hands together and a powerful energy quickly gathered there. Following this, his body quickly withered and his face turned black. When it comes to extracting fuel, Court will show no mercy. A dazzling beam of energy gathered in his palm, and then a powerful divine star stream shot towards the point in front of him that he thought was the weakest. Boom! After the powerful energy cannon bombarded them, the black dragons were deformed by the impact, but were not torn apart at all. Xiaolai raised the corner of his mouth when he saw this scene. Guess why I chose chains instead of steel bars? It's to absorb as much of your strength as possible and then trap you firmly. He raised his right hand towards Court. A hand cannon on the right hand suddenly expanded, breathing and beating slowly, like a living creature. The hot energy was burning like magma. He lit a cigarette for himself and held it between his lips. As long as you keep replacing raw materials, you can always maintain a high level of fighting posture. As long as the raw materials are continuous, you will never be exhausted. But endurance alone isn't enough. Your weak explosive power is your biggest weakness. As Xiaolai spoke, the hand cannon in his hand began to store energy crazily. Black energy began to gather like a storm, forming a powerful airflow in front of him. A terrifying aura enveloped Court. Court gritted his teeth, came to his senses, and stared at Xiaolai. What a calculation! Now that the truth has been revealed, there is no need to waste any more time talking nonsense. We must fight when we must. He clenched his hands, one above the other, and began to extract energy from this body in greater quantities. This body shrank rapidly. A top-level Delta-level mutant was drained of everything, and the condensed power was enough to kill Ypsilon. While dodging the attacks of the Black Dragon chains, Court fired a divine star stream at Xiaolai. Xiaolai was not willing to be outdone and fired a simple laser cannon. Under the amplification of Metal Frenzy, the lethality was also astonishing. The two terrifying forces collided in midair, instantly forming a huge ball of unstable energy that swept in all directions. At this moment, behind Xiaolai, the Arctic god of war Qin Jiahao took action. His body had been twisted beyond recognition and looked nothing like a human. Instead, he was a human cannon made of flesh and blood. His neck was almost as wide as his head and extended a full 50 centimeters, looking hideous and terrifying. The huge, boiled egg-like head tilted upwards, forming a straight line from the mouth to the throat. The energy is accumulated, and it is fired directly at the target. Boom! A ball of yellow energy gushed out of his mouth. The powerful energy made all 7 of his orifices glow. He looked more like a Halloween pumpkin lantern than a human. However, this attack was still incredibly fast, penetrating through the space and arriving in front of Court. No matter how powerful Delta-level Qin Jiahao is, theoretically it is difficult for him to harm Black Chariot-level Court. But now, Court had just fought with Xiaolai, and Guyu, who was possessed by him, had drained all the energy in his body. He was at his weakest. The timing was perfect, and with the years of brotherly understanding between the 5 pole war gods, this blow hit Court's body hard. Chapter 22, 50 Talent. His body was enveloped by a huge beam of energy, and his already unbearable body was shattered in midair by the impact. Huff, huff. Guyu's body turned into dust, and a white battle suit flew up and circled. This was Court's true form. He uses others as fuel and consumables, and when one consumable is used up, he replaces it with a new one and can continue fighting in perfect form. He quickly appeared, his entire body like an illusory shadow shrouded in a white robe. The attack just now obviously caused him considerable damage. But this is not the most troublesome problem. The most troublesome problem is that there is no new material around him to use. Without consumables, his abilities would be greatly reduced. Clatter. The black dragon blocked the surrounding space and refused to let him leave. If he wanted to break through these dense chains, he would have to withstand attacks from both Xiaolai and Qin Jiahao at the same time. This situation put Court in a dilemma.
Pa.
Xiaolai clapped his hands, and then Court made a gesture of inviting him to fight, motioning him to come over. Go on, go on. You're out of supplies. Do you want to give me a try? If you can beat me, you can get a pair of really cool supplies. Court stared at Xiaolai intently, feeling a little heavy in his heart. But he is not stupid. His ability requires the help of external objects. If he only uses his original body, he will not be able to defeat a well-prepared opponent. So, Court raised the corner of his mouth and sneered sinisterly. You don't think I'm unprepared, do you? Court was born into a noble family, but he was a very impoverished nobleman who had lost all his ancestral property except for a worthless barren title. So when he was very young, his life was very difficult, and he often didn't even have enough to eat. So from then on, he developed a good habit of never wasting food and always put plenty of food on himself, at home, and even in his travel suitcase. Court reached out and took out a small white ball from his pocket with his slender fingers in white gloves. Xiaolai took a closer look and found that it was actually a lizard-man-like thing, similar to a protein ball. That's my subordinates. As Court spoke, he tilted his neck back and pinched the still twisting white ball with 2 fingers. It's also my food reserve. After saying that, he stuffed the dumpling into his mouth. His body looked like just a layer of skin, but when the ball fell into his stomach, his body suddenly swelled up. Soon he turned into a mighty lizard man, but his sinister and vicious eyes proved that he was still Court himself. He wiped the corners of his mouth, as if he had just tasted something delicious. They were his carefully trained subordinates, possessing powerful superpowers and physiques, and were also his excellent consumables. Real talent. Let's get on with it. But I think you must be wondering how much of this kind of food I still have, right? Right? He looked at Xiaolai with a smile, a playful look on his face. This is a secret. Experiment with your life. Xiaolai's surprise only lasted for a second before he quickly regained his composure. There's nothing surprising about this. This is a battlefield, and these are intelligent creatures. Is there anything that can be 100% controlled in your hands? The ending won't change. You'll be the only one who loses. The huge hand cannon on Xiaolai's right hand suddenly underwent a more drastic change, and in an instant it turned into a ferocious black dragon, wrapping up Xiaolai's arm. From a distance, it looked like a black dragon was circling Xiaolai's shoulders, staring at Court in front of him with a fierce look. If you really died that easily, I would find it more boring. What Xiaolai said was not just a show-off, but he knew very well. An alien who has reached the level of Black Chariot cannot be killed so easily. It's just a protracted war, so let's fight. The black dragon roared and launched a deafening bombardment at Jin Court. In the sky, tens of thousands of black dragon chains were strangling Court. Compared with other battlefields, Li Chonggong was the second to enter the battle. His abilities are not suitable for use on the battlefield, but are more suitable for one-on-one duels. So in the early stages of the battle, he just watched coldly and was responsible for scouts from behind. His abilities cannot be exposed at the very beginning, because hiding behind the mechanical army and lazily waiting for the battle to unfold is his best choice. In the communication channel, battles continued to break out in other places. Li Chonggong just held the two sabers at his waist and silently conserved his energy. The two armies collided fiercely, and the laser cannon drew an elegant arc across the sky like a meteor, and then fell to the earth. The mechanical army raised its energy shield to block all attacks from the Wulwan Empire army, and then fired its own laser energy cannons in response. The Zhongyuan clan knows too well about the wars between advanced civilizations. They only need to dissolve the opponent's energy attack to weaken the opponent's combat power by at least 30%, or even 50%. Then, they would use their powerful firepower to directly cover the enemy's battlefield from a distance, and finally, the mechanical army would use its indestructible steel body to clear the enemy at close range. The war went from a stalemate at the beginning to the Huaxiu coalition forces gradually gaining the upper hand, and then the Wulwan Empire army line was quickly defeated, all in less than 20 minutes. Even their most proud Iron Curtain was unable to provide timely and effective support to the ground forces due to insufficient energy supply and being forced to defend against the attacks of the three super battleships at zenith. Li Chonggong took out a silver wine jug from his body, unscrewed the cap, and took a sip. He hadn't fought a war between two countries for a long time, so he was a little excited and drank some wine. Under the effect of alcohol, he became even more excited, and his whole body felt much more relaxed. The enemy's line was like a makeshift tidebreak under a tsunami, shaky and precarious. Shouldn't it be time for it to show up? Li Chonggong wiped the corner of his mouth and spoke lightly, but his eyes were fixed on the battlefield, not missing any movement. Ypsilon, the opponent on this front, must come out. If he doesn't come out, the front will collapse completely, and he will be brought to a military court or even executed. Sure enough, just as Li Chonggong imagined, when the Wulwan Empire's front line was about to collapse, a large amount of gray fog suddenly rose from the East City District's front line, as if a group of insects soared into the sky and quickly spread across the entire battlefield. Staying with me, we'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.